Hi everyone. Today we are going to discuss electric field and charges part 2. In part 1 we discuss what is the properties of charges, frictional electricity and units of charges. In part 2 we'll discuss what is Coulomb's law in vector form and different types of charge densities, that is linear charge density, surface charge density, and volume charge density. Each and every concept we'll discuss in detail in part 2. This is very important. In Coulomb's law, we'll get 2 marks in CBSE board exams. Now, let us see part 2 of our electric charges and fields, and starts with Coulomb's law. What is Coulomb's law? Okay, Coulomb's law explains the force between 2 point electric charges. Coulomb's law explains the force between 2 point electric charges. And if you see the Coulomb's law in detail, it is the electrostatic force of interaction, that is attraction or repulsion between 2 point electric charges, is directly proportional to the product of the charges. Okay, the electrostatic force is directly proportional to product of two charges. Okay, and inversely proportional to square of distance between them. Square of distance between them, and acts along line joining the two charges. That is our Coulomb's law statement. And this Coulomb's law, if you strictly speaking, Coulomb's law applies to the stationary point charges. Coulomb's law applies to the stationary point charges. What is meant by point charge? Here see the definition. Any charge which covers a space with dimensions much less than its distance away from an observation point can be considered as point charge. Here we are taking charge which covers space with the dimensions which is very less than the distance away from an observation point. Here is our observation point. If you see from this observation point here, this will look like very small, minute, just like that. It will be appear. So this is the point charge. Another definition we have for point charge, it is hypothetical charge located at particular point, located at particular point in a space. Okay, what is meant by point charge? In another definition, it is a hypothetical charge located at particular point in a space. That is our point charge. Then we are taking the 2 point charges Q1 and Q2. These 2 point charges are separated by the distance R. Then from Coulomb's law, we know force is directly proportional to product of two charges Q1 and Q2, and force is inversely proportional to square of the distance between them. These by combining these two equations, equation 1 and 2, we can rewrite our force is equal to Q1 Q2 by R square. Or we can written as force is equal to K Q1 Q2 by R square, where K is positive constant of proportionality called electrostatic force constant or Coulomb constant. In vacuum, K will written as 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught, and epsilon naught is the permittivity of free space. In medium, K will written as 1 by 4 pi epsilon, where epsilon is the absolute electric permittivity of the dielectric medium. Now we will see the definition of dielectric constant. Dielectric constant, also called in different names, that is relative permittivity or or specific inductive capacity or dielectric coefficient. Generally, dielectric constant denoted by K. K is equal to epsilon R is equal to epsilon by epsilon naught. Epsilon is the permittivity of medium. Epsilon naught is the permittivity of vacuum. This is medium. Epsilon R is the relative permittivity. Okay. Now we'll see in vacuum will written as force is equal to 1 by 4 by epsilon naught Q1 Q2 by R square. In medium, force is equal to 1 by 4 by epsilon naught into epsilon R Q1 Q2 by R square. Okay, how we got this equation? We know our K is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon. Then force is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon Q1 Q2 by R square. From this equation, we will written as epsilon is equal to epsilon R into epsilon naught. We substitute here, our force is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon R into epsilon naught Q1 Q2 by R square. This is our force in medium. Next, here we have the value for epsilon naught, that is permittivity of free space, 8.8542 into 10 to the power of minus 12 Coulomb square Newton meter square. And 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught value is 8.9875 into 10 to the power of 9 Newton meter square per Coulomb square. Or we can written as 9 into 10 to the power of 9 Newton meter square per Coulomb square. In all problems, we will take this value 9 into 10 to the power of 9 value for 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught. Okay, here this units is important. Coulomb square per Newton meter square. How we got that units? If you see, in order to find epsilon naught, this epsilon naught is moved to here. Then epsilon naught is equal to 1 by 4 pi f q1 q2 by r square. So 1 by 4 pi, it is a dimensionless quantity, no units. And q1 q2 is charge into charge square, and force is Newton, and r square distance meter square. So Coulomb square Newton meter square. This is the units for epsilon naught. And 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught, we need to find overall this. Then it becomes f r square by q1 q2. F is Newton meter square r square by Coulomb square. Newton meter square per Coulomb square. This is the units for 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught. Most of the students, they will get the confusion in these units. Okay, in order to avoid that ambiguity, we can follow this way. Next, Coulomb's law in vector form we'll discuss. In vacuum, for Q1, Q2 is greater than 0, we are taking in vacuum. If Q1, Q2 is greater than 0, what does it mean? Definitely two charges will be same, either positive or negative. We will take two cases, positive and negative, and we'll discuss. We are taking the two electric point charges, positive plus Q1 and plus Q2, separated by the distance R. Definitely these two are the same charges. There will be a repulsion force. That repulsion force is F12 in this direction. F12 is what? Force on Q1 due to Q2. Similarly, we'll get F21 force on Q2 due to Q1. Then we'll written as F12 is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 Q2 by R square and R21 cap. This gives the direction. R21 means this is the direction from charge Q2 to charge Q1. Similarly, we'll written as F21 is equal to 1 by 4 by epsilon naught Q1 Q2 by R square. And the direction is 1 to 2, means charge Q1 to Q2. And here we are taking both negative. Here also we'll get repulsion force. This is F12 and here F21. Okay. Next, we'll see these two forces F12 and F21, how they will obey the Newton third law. We'll discuss in vacuum for Q1, Q2 less than 0. Means same in vacuum we are taking the another case. Here we are assuming one charge is positive and another charge is negative. Then only we'll get Q1, Q2 less than 0. So here we are taking our two charges plus Q1 and minus Q2. From plus Q1 to minus Q2, we'll get the attractive force, that is F12 force on charge Q1 due to Q2. Similarly, we'll get F21 force on charge Q2 due to Q1. F12 will written as 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 Q2 by R square, and the direction is R12 cap. And F21 is force on charge Q2 due to Q1 is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 Q2 by R square, and direction is R21. If you observe the magnitude wise, F12 and F21 are same, but direction is different. So we'll written as R12 we'll written as, which is same as R21 with minus. R12 we will written as minus R21 cap. Then this both force magnitude wise same, only sign is changes. Then F12 is equal to minus F21. Means if you observe here, there will be equal and opposite forces. Hence, our Coulomb's law obeys Newton's third law. Newton's third law. And here, in order to write in vector form, how to write? We know the force, that is 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 Q2 by R square into R cap. Generally, if you take R cap is the direction. It is going to convert in vector form, that is R cap will be written as R bar by its magnitude. Then F is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 Q2 by R cube R bar. So this is our Coulomb's law in vector form. In vector form, we'll get cube R cube, but it is R square only in Coulomb's law. That's why we called Coulomb's law, also we called Coulomb's inverse square law, because it is inversely proportional to square of the distance between the two charges. If you write in vector form, it gives the R cube. Okay, but it is directly proportional to the distance of R square only. Next, charge distribution. We'll see in charge distribution, we are taking continuous charge distribution. If you take any rod, the charge is distributed continuously without discreteness. Charge. In that continuous charge distribution means what? A system of closely spaced charge is said to form continuous charge distribution. Closely spaced charges is said to form continuous charge distribution. Take this metal, Here all charges are closely packed. All charges are closely packed. It will appears like continuous charge distribution. Next, it is useful to consider the density of charge distribution as we do for density of solid, liquid, and gases. So in order to find that charge distribution, we'll consider the densities. Then we'll get the continuous charge distribution, how the charge is distributed. For that, we are taking first line or linear charge density. This is denoted by lambda. Linear charge density means what? Is defined as charge per unit length. So this is the definition, or another way how the linear charge is distributed. If you see here, if the charge is distributed over a straight line or over a circumference of a circle or over the edge of the cuboid, then the distribution is called linear charge distribution. Linear charge distribution means if you take one straight line, the charge is distributed here over a line or over the circumference of the circle or edge of the cuboid. Then we can say it is linearly charge distributed. And linear charge density is, it is the ratio of charge by length, charge per unit length. And unit is charge is coulomb, length is meter. And in order to find the charge distribution, continuous charge distribution, we are taking the small element, and if we integrate, we'll get overall charge distribution. For that, we are taking small element dq and small length dl. Means if we take, this is our rod, metal rod. In this metal rod, charges is continuously distributed. So in this continuously distributed charges, we are not able to use this formula. We can use the integration, and for that we are taking the small part area, that is charge dq and length dl, and overall length of the rod is l. The lambda is equal to dq by dl. Then if we want to find the total charge on line, q is equal to, means we need to integrate. Integration of dq is equal to integration of lambda dl, and this length, overall length we are finding. Here we are taking the integration. What is the use of this integration? Integration is sum of over all elements. Sum of over all elements means here we are taking one small part of this rod. This one rod, if you take and integrate, we'll get all other parts. Okay, that's why we are taking the integration. Integration is sum of over all the elements. This is our linear charge density. Next, you will see surface charge density denoted by sigma. And surface charge density, how charge is distributed. If the charge is distributed over a surface area, then the distribution is called surface charge distribution. If charge is distributed over the area, in this particular area, we can say surface charge distribution. And it is defined as charge per unit area. Charge per unit area. Yes. Then sigma is equal to dq by ds. Same here, you take, this is our area. In this area, small part dq and a small area ds. Again, q is equal to integration sigma ds. Next, volume charge density denoted by rho. What is volume charge density? If charge distributed over a volume, then the distribution is called volume charge distribution. Okay, and volume charge density is charge per unit volume, charge per unit volume, V, and density is equal to dq by dV. Then in order to find Q, we need to integrate integration rho dV. We'll get. So this is our cube. In this cube, how the volume charge is distributed, we can find by using our volume charge density formula. Okay, in this is our electric field and the charges part 2. In part 3, we'll discuss what is the electric field intensity, and based on this part 1 and part 2, we'll see the problems related to Coulomb's inverse square law. Okay, so with that, we'll conclude our part 2 session. Thank you. Thank you.